George, thank you for having this conversation with me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, Ricardo. Appreciate you having me, man. Anything.
So, it's fatherhood centric. You can talk about anything you want as long as you can connect it to your experience as a father or your experience as a child. If you can talk about oil prices and connect it to how it has made your life as a father better or worse, then you're welcome to it.
Awesome, man. Will
Okay.
do.
All right, cool. So maybe we can start with I don't know. We can start with we can start anywhere. We can say, well, how many kids you have. You can tell us, we can start off with your experience as a child and your own father, and what did you learn from him? Let's go there, right?
So, all right. So I guess let's just go back to my childhood. Obviously, I was born in Colombia. I came to the States when I was 10. I was brought here when I was 10. My parents left. My mother left. My father left 7 years. For 7 years, my mother left for four. So I didn't grow up with them for those many years. So basically, I didn't know who my father was. I had an idea. Um, I mean, I was only 2 or 3 by the time he left. So I was fairly small, and everybody kept telling me, "Oh, he's this short guy, this person." And so I had somebody imagine in my head. So when I first met him, when we first got to Miami, I'm looking for this midget person, and I was like, wait a minute, that's not the guy I had in mind. But either way, again, those 7 years, I mean, they were tough. Obviously, without my father, and without my mom, and I was raised by my grandmother and my aunt. But I guess it was natural to me at the time. But when I first met him, it kind of felt awkward because I really didn't know who he was.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had conversations on the phone, and yeah, he sent me gifts and other things that they're supposed to be doing, wanted to do. But yeah, we got here, and when we got here, I think it was such a change for me because we lived well over there. I mean, my mom's family had means to raise us right and in a good place. So when we got to Miami, moved directly to Jacksonville, Florida, and it was just a drastic change. Now, now you're talking about a 10-year-old kid with an 8-year-old sister, two kids getting here with no English. Um, that language barrier was there. So it was just such a drastic change that I mean, it was a pain for about a year until I learned English and I kind of got accustomed to everything. But as far as my father, um, obviously, Salcedos, they have a bad reputation with drinking, and so that was what we came here to. So a lot of drinking. Um, Man, how can I say it? Um, just a bad experience. I
Yeah.
mean, 10 years old, I mean, from 10 all the way up to, I want to say, 20 years old, it was kind of like a rough patch
Okay.
because of the drinking, because of the problems, and so it had never been an excellent relationship with my father. Always, my mother, it was a lot different. It was just because she didn't drink. It was just always, I was always going to her for
Yeah.
different things, but not with my father. Um, but you know what? I mean, eventually everything got a little better, and I grew up and
Yeah.
decided to do things differently, and I mean, we're at a good place now. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
not an easy situation, man. So, I mean, I can go on and on and on with this whole thing, but I mean, it'll take us 2 days to finish. So,
Yeah. Yeah, you can, and I think that's part of what's important about this conversation, that you can, and I wish that you were not able to, meaning the event was traumatic enough,
got
right?
it.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's what you're saying, right? I mean, you're saying, so one, so you grew up without dad being there. So let's talk about 3 to 7, right? No, three. I'm sorry, 3 to 10, 7 years.
Yeah,
In the
7 years.
7 year span, I'm sure you were imagining how amazing it was going to be with reunited with dad eventually.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Especially us being there in Colombia and then coming to United States. Obviously, everybody thinks, oh, United States is the greatest thing in the world when you're in a different country. And yes, it is. But it wasn't the case when we got here. So we got here to live very poorly. There was just a lot of sacrifices from my mom. Um, Obviously, a lot of drinking from my dad. But I think I overcame all those. I don't want to say obstacles, but I don't even know the word to use for that. But yeah, I overcame it, and I have a great relationship with my father now, and I mean, he even works for me, so it's a good thing.
He worked for you.
Yeah, he does.
That's funny. Yeah. So right. So I was saying you probably had ideas in your head of what it was going to be like to be reunited, right? Maybe did you fantasize about reuniting with dad?
You know what? And I talk a lot about this to my wife. Is that for some reason I have blocked a lot of my childhood and even my teenage years. I've blocked it out of my head,
Yeah.
um, and not because I wanted to. I think it's just I don't think I want to ever see that again. And I just my mind has just decided to block it out. And some things trigger it. Like I'll be talking to my wife and she'll say something and I'll be like, oh wait, I remember something like that. And then
Yeah.
I start remembering like, okay, something like this did happen. But again, it's just block. It's like years of blockage in my head.
Right.
And then if something triggers it, then it comes back, and then like, oh, wait a minute, I did do that, or I was there, or I
Yeah.
did that. So,
So, but is the blockage connected to dad?
um, I can't, I can't say it was connected to dad. At my age now, I don't. I mean, I, I think it may have been, um, but I don't know. I have no regret or no remorse in my head now, so I don't think it's related to that.
Hmm.
But I'm also not a
Okay.
doctor, so I don't know what if it does or not. So
Yeah. Okay. Got it. All right. So then, so you get here. Okay. So then, well, let's just fast forward then to um, you arrive here. He's drinking a lot. That's obviously it's making your arrival particularly difficult because he doesn't have his act together. Um, but so let's fast forward to you meet a girl and you have your first child,
correct.
and how
So
old you were, and to what extent did your experience with your father, both his absence and then the awkward reunification influence you as a father?
I think I started very early. So I was 17 when I had my first son.
Okay.
This was right in high school, right at the end of high school. Um, I have four boys, by the way, no girls. I have a granddaughter. My oldest is 24. 25. Um, my next one is going to be he's 21. Then I have a 19-year-old, and then I have a 12-year-old.
Wow.
But so it's a it's a bit of a crazy story for me. So I was 17 when I had my first son. Um, I was with his mom for a little bit. I call it high school love, I guess. We were together for a little bit. We split up. It didn't work out. Thank God she's still around and we still talk to each other, and that's great. Um, then at 21, I had my second child, and then so on and so
Yeah.
forth. But yeah, I don't. I think um, I think at I guess at some point I caught myself doing the same thing my father was doing.
Right.
just kind of following that trend. But I
And
think with the help of my mother and a lot of people, now my wife too, I mean, we've gotten through this whole process where we don't, I mean, we chose not to be that way anymore, or stop that the way they were. Like it
oh,
ended at my father's, I don't know what to call it, but it ended there.
yeah. What is it that you're speaking of? What did you
You know,
what,
the drinking, the just not being a good parent,
okay.
just not being there, worrying about other things other than than taking care of your family.
Yeah. 17, I mean, I get the desire to have sex. I get that. I think that we all should be talking a lot more about um, teens and sex. I think we do. I think we have to have a global conversation around the reality that teenagers are horny, very horny, and want to have a lot of sex. That aside, you had a child. So, and not only did you have one at 17, but you had one, at 20 or 21.
21.
So
Yeah,
then,
17, 21.
so what motivated you? What did you plan the first child?
So again, I was a little crazy teenager. Um, I mean, my behavior was not the greatest. Um, so I met a lot of girls. I was going around doing my thing, but yeah, I met his mom. We had a baby. We got a lot of help from her mom and my parents as well. But then I met another girl in high school. I had two babies with her,
Oh wow.
and everything was going well. Um, I mean, we're together 6, 7 years, almost 8 years. I mean, we had a home, we had all this and that, but that didn't work out. So now I have three boys, two moms, no family in reality other than my kids that I love. But it's it was never it was never there. Like the family thing was never there for me.
Yeah.
So all my kids are there. And then I finally met my wife now. We've been together almost 17 years now,
Mm,
and we have a 12-year-old,
yeah.
and obviously I'm still married, and it's just so, I mean, it's so much different. A lot of people say, well, I'm glad I had my kids when I was young because I'm able to enjoy them and we talk and I'm able to teach them a lot of things and I mean, I'm still there. We're all still there for them.
Yeah.
And I mean, it feels good. But yeah, I do regret not having just that one family, like that one wife with my kids and
Yeah.
me saying, okay, I got three baby moms.
Yeah. I mean,
So
realistically, it would have been. Well, let's see. This is an interesting idea. Realistically, it would have been weird. It would have been quite strange if you had been able to stay with that first girl. It's from such
yeah,
an early age on. I'm sure it happens, but
yeah, I know it happens. I've known guys who and friends who's. I mean, it's happened,
yeah.
but it's rare.
Yeah.
So
So now you said that you finally broke the cycle. I think is what you were trying to say, and
correct.
then so that means that you were drinking for how many years through?
No,
Yeah.
it wasn't that I was drinking. I was just maybe. I mean, I did drink. Don't get me wrong, but I wasn't an alcoholic or anything like that, or it's, casual drinking, just partying, being out with girls, not being responsible is
Oh,
basically what I
okay.
was trying to say. Just not taking care of my responsibilities.
Yeah.
Um, and that, I mean, I think that followed from my father's footsteps.
Yeah.
I think that I carried that on until I decided to say, okay, this is enough. I can't do this, or I don't want to do this. I don't want my kids doing this or that. Even though I'm not too proud of have the way it's been, the way it happened. Obviously, they got different moms, but I am proud that I'm still there. Even my oldest son, which we had a harder time with, not a harder time, but I didn't get to see him as much as I wanted to. But I'm still, even now, I think I'm more there now than I've ever was. And that's because I've mature. I mean, he's got his baby, and I try to help out as much as I can.
So then, did you learn anything from your dad? Did you learn some things that maybe do, or did you mostly learn from him what not to do with your children?
Um, I mean, there's a lot of lessons and what has happened, and these are lessons that I try to explain to my kids or teach my kids and tell them, hey, this is my experience. Let me tell you what may be the route not to go, not to take. But again, you can only tell your kids so much. You can help them, but you can't make them do what you want them to do. So it's impossible. But um,
And let me interrupt
it,
you there for a second. I know that you're going somewhere with this, but even if you could, would you want to? Right? Meaning, if you could
you're
tell
right.
them what to do,
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
right?
I mean,
Because yeah,
I wouldn't want them to do everything. I mean, I want them to take their own path and their own way
right.
and figure out life on, on their own,
Yeah, yeah,
which is, that's what they've been doing. I mean, we guide them, my wife and I guide them a certain way, and we
yeah.
teach them that, hey, we're all adults now. So I tell
Right,
you, hey, this is I can tell you as much as I want. I want you to do certain things, but this is your life. This is my phrase to them. This is your life. You're gonna end up doing what you want with your life. I
right,
can only tell you what I think is right, what I think is best. But if you choose something else, again, I'm always there. But this is your life.
right. Yeah. So you were going somewhere, and now I made us both, I think, lose the train of thought. But but uh, but no, but that was important. That was important because it's something that I recognize in myself is that what I very consciously do with my children is just prepare them to leave the nest. I don't want them to leave. I love them very much. I want them to be with me forever, and I want them to be with me more than they want to be with me already. But I know that every single thing that I do is to prepare them to leave. So it's a
Yeah,
real, and then also the question becomes very early on. You have to tell them what to do all the time, but then you have to you have to gradually remove yourself. I think every year you have to remove yourself further because
just a
that's what
bit.
they need. This is the way that it works for me in my mind. This is what has to be done. They have to be self-sufficient on their own as soon as possible. Um, what is some of the what is some of the advice that you give your boys? Is there anything that stands out?
Um, I like I said, I always tell them, I said, I can give you all the advice in the world. You can take it if you want, but I always tell them to look at me. Look at what I've done. Look at what I've become. Um, Early on in the years, like I said, it wasn't that great. But now I think we've gotten this bond, or they've seen that they like, okay, well, my dad made it. He's got
Mhm.
this. My dad had you at 17. He struggled. He did this and that, but he's actually made it now. Why can't we do it? So
Yeah.
I mean, those. I mean, those are little things that I always tell them. There's nothing really that I can say that really stands out,
Mhm.
um, other than just teach them about a little bit about life and what my experiences were.
Yeah.
Nothing too crazy.
Um, what do you recall any particular conversations around sex?
Yes, all the time, and even with my little one, I mean, we talk about it too. My little one is a little skeptical about it. He's kind of doesn't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
He's still a little embarrassed. But yeah, from early on, I mean, that's the first thing I told, and I actually prayed and I said, oh God, please don't let my kids have kids at such an early age, which I mean, I don't regret now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be 43, and my kids are grown up, and I mean, I've enjoyed them more than ever. But that was the first thing I said. Please, God, don't let them have kids such an early age. But yeah,
So
we always talked about it. I mean,
yeah.
since they're boys, I told them exactly what was going to happen, what they were going to start feeling. I mean,
How much detail can you share with us? What you so you know so all right. Let's put it to you this way: when your oldest was maybe 17 or around that age, you tell me what the age was. What I want you to like be as open as you can without getting yourself into trouble. What did you say to this boy? Because I want other young boys out there. You know, right now I had a conversation with a young man, 19 years old in Ecuador, and he was like, he was panicking. He was upset. Now his girlfriend pregnant, and they said, "Oh man, there's so much going on." But something about the conversation that I was having with him was, it revolved around this idea that I guess he felt that because he had gotten her pregnant, maybe the solution was to not have sex. And I think that that's sort of like where he was going with the conversation. And I'm
Got
like,
it.
well, what are we talking about? Are we talking about masturbation forever, except for procreation, and then masturbation going forward? And I just don't think that that's the answer, right? So, what do you think the answer is? I mean, you have four boys. Clearly, it's on your mind, right? Yeah. What do you think?
I mean, the whole sex talk with them, I was I was always very open with them. And the first thing that came out of my mouth always is, even when I'm talking to my younger ones, I always said, hey, at 17, this happened. I had sex with her, and we had your brother. But I've always said to them, just be careful. I always told them to strap up.
Yeah.
um,
Have you have you bought?
trying.
Did you buy condoms for anybody?
Oh yeah, yeah, constantly.
Okay.
Yeah, for my first one, my second one, my third one. Not my fourth one yet. He's only 12 years. I'm trying to get him away from that. But yeah, they've all had it. Even my oldest kind of is a little reserved, so he wouldn't talk to me as much about it, but I knew he was getting there. My 21-year-old, his name is Nicholas. He would always talk. He still talks.
Yeah.
He's in the army now, but he always talks, and he would tell me. They call me Ba. Hey Ba, I met this girl. I need to. I don't know what to do. Like,
Yeah.
we haven't done anything yet, but I think it's getting close or this and that. I was like, hey, it's gonna happen. I told him, say, you're gonna last about 30 seconds the first time, but making fun of him. Like, oh yeah, whatever. But yeah, we always bought him condoms.
Yeah.
Just and just telling them to be careful. I mean, they've been it's been a very big open relationship with the boys
Yeah.
when it comes to things like that. I mean, we're open with everything. When I tell you everything, it's everything.
There are people out there that will argue that buying them condoms is equivalent. It's the equivalent of telling them to go out and have sex. What would you say to people like that?
Um, I mean, sex is a natural thing. I mean, it's gonna happen regardless of whether you want it or not. If you buy them a condom and you give it to them and say, "Hey, you're open to it," um, I don't think it's that way. I just think is you're being a parent or being someone that cares for that other person, and is helping them think, hey, we need you to protect yourself just in case.
Mm.
You're gonna do it regardless, whether you're 10, 12, 15, 100 years old, you're gonna do it.
Yeah.
But just be a little protective of yourself, and just be careful. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, sex is sex. You're gonna do it. I mean, they think about it. Well, as
Yeah.
very young kids, we think about it. Your kids, my kids. I mean, they all thought about it. They looked at pictures, they saw a magazine, and
Yeah.
it's in the DNA.
Yeah. It's in the DNA. I do absolutely think that I find it fascinating. Maybe that's the wrong word. Utterly ridiculous to think that we don't have an open channel of communication for sex in general, considering that every living thing has to have sex to reproduce.
To
Plants, animals,
recreate,
insects,
correct.
right? Recreate. Um, so the idea that we don't talk about it, and to think that not providing children condoms is going to dissuade them from having sexual thoughts, I think it's absurd. It really is
Yeah,
the most ridiculous thing. But what I do recognize is that the vast majority of the population probably just feels a little uncomfortable. Like, I just don't know how to
that's
broach the
yeah,
subject.
yeah. That's what it is. I mean, it's just that the talk. That's why it's called the talk. I mean, just be open about it. I think just be open about it. I mean, my kids. I mean, all my kids. I mean, we're so open with everything. I mean, I could just remember my one of my kids telling me, "Dad, I want to try marijuana for the first time," and it was rough. It was rough for me
Yeah,
because I'm not into it, and I'm like, wait a minute, what's I appreciated the fact that he approached me about it. I can't say that he did it before and then told me, or he was just testing me out. But I appreciated that for him even bringing that up. Most kids, sure as hell didn't. I didn't tell my mom anything. Hey, mom, I'm gonna go drink. No way, I'm not gonna tell her that. I just did it, and then if I got caught, I got caught.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
but yeah, that's how open it's been with my children.
yeah,
So obviously, like I said, my kids are older already, so it's a different experience.
yeah.
But now I have that whole, I guess, support system now behind me with my 12-year-old. So I got reinforcements. So I can always tell one of my sons, hey, talk to your brother,
Mm, yeah,
or do this, or maybe help him something that I can't.
yeah,
But you know,
yeah.
it is what it is.
What have your what sort of things have your any of your children what have your children, your boys, um maybe disagreed with, that you've done with you, like, right, when you what sort of parenting thing have you done that where they've turned around and been like, and, later they told you like, Dad, I really wish you hadn't done that.
Um, Other than having them at such a young age and having so many women, that's really what my boys tell me about all the time. They're like, oh, you were a player, you were this, you were doing that. I don't want to be like that. And I
Oh,
say, good. I say, good, Pa. I don't want you to be like that. I want you to, have your wife and have kids and
huh.
stay with that person. And I mean, I don't disagree with them. But then I told him, I said, hey, if that didn't happen, I wouldn't have you guys. We won't be having this discussion. We would be talking about all of this. But but we
That's
laugh
funny.
about it. We talk about it. Yeah, I mean, it's not always fun and games,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's been a good relationship with us.
How how do you spend time with your children? How do you make the decision? Do you make a conscious decision to spend time with them? Have you historically?
Yes. With that's the thing. With my oldest, it was the hardest thing. So I got so many stories, man. It's it's going to drive you nuts. My oldest lived in Jacksonville, or lives in Jacksonville. He now lives in a property that I own there, um, and he's staying there. But when he were younger, his mom and I, we try to do every weekend or every other weekend. But I lived in Orlando, so it started off well, and then it kind of just started fading, and it just became when I went to Jacksonville, then I saw him,
Mhm.
or I would call him, and maybe he didn't pick up, or his mom was busy, or she had him somewhere else. When this is when younger,
Yeah.
but now, I mean, now he's 25 now, so it's just I do a lot of work in Jacksonville as well, so every time I go, obviously he stays in my house, and I call him, say, hey, Dom, come, I'm here at grandma's house, come by, or let's meet up for lunch, breakfast, dinner, whatever it may be, and we do it that way. My 21 Nicholas, he's in Hawaii, he's in the army, so there's no seeing of him for now,
Yeah.
until he gets leave, or until this whole COVID-19 thing goes away and
Yeah.
we can not be quarantined for 14 days.
Yeah.
And then my 19-year-old, he lives here. He lives with his mom. He goes to school, but yeah, I mean, we see him constantly. He comes over. Again, they're so 19, 21, and 25. So they all have their own girlfriends. They all have their own life. They're all doing their own thing. They're going to school. They're always busy. But I always push them even when I don't hear from them for a little bit. I always say, "Hey, what's going on? Did you forget about your dad? I'm
Yeah.
still here." And we reconnect and we talk, and they come over, we hang out, and so that's how it's been. When they were little, it was a little different because obviously I had three little ones,
Yeah.
child support. It was tough. It was a tough situation for me.
Yeah.
The two of my boys, they actually moved when I separated from their mom. We moved to California. Oh, she moved to California, and so that was tough. So I try to see them
Yeah.
2, 3 times a year, but that was the toughest thing.
Yeah.
That was the worst thing. And I tell them out all the time. I said that's the worst time of my life. those, whatever it was, 4 years, because it was 5, yeah, about 3 years.
Yeah.
But I finally was able to get them back here, and
Yeah.
everybody is doing well.
What I seem to notice, correct me if I'm wrong, is this innate sense of responsibility towards the children that you've brought to this world, right?
Of course.
Like you don't seem to have you don't seem to waver in this. I mean, you seem to have you had a clear. It was clear for you from the very beginning, even at 17, that this was your child, and that you were going to be there going forward.
Oh yeah, 100% always. And even with my wife now, when I first met her, the very first thing I told her, I said, "Hey, listen, I know we're just meeting, but the very first thing I got to tell you is that I have 3 boys. I'm 30 years old, and if this is going to be an issue, I mean, I can't be with you." So that 100% my priority, 100%, and I think it will be for the rest of my life.
Yeah. It's, I honestly, it's interesting because I've had conversations about fatherhood with people for many years. And this is literally the first time that I speak with somebody who is just so clear. Like, you didn't question it, but there was also no question about it. Like, I think that right? You almost seem, you never, there was never a doubt, like, there was never an alternative or an option, right? It was, this is my child, I'm with I have,
Yeah, no,
right?
not at all, not at
Ah,
all. Once my first son was born, I mean, I knew what I had to do. Obviously, at 17, you're still a little confused, and at that moment, you don't know what you're doing. But yeah, I mean, eventually you'll catch on. And like I always tell people, I said, even at 17, I mean, a lot of guys at 17 would just walk away or not come back. I'm still there. Like, I'm 5 million% still
yeah.
there.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well,
So
because I mean, this isn't something. This is also, I mean, it's innate because this isn't something that your father taught you.
no, not at all. I think, I, yeah, I don't know if it's just nature, or just the way it happened, or just the way I am. Not 100%, but yeah, nothing that I saw from my father taught me to do that at all. Obviously, I was too little to understand when he was gone, and then I was 10 when I saw him again, and then from there on, it was just bad stories.
Yeah,
So nothing to. I mean, I don't remember a time when he said, "Oh, you got to do this with your child, or you got to do this, or you can be a better person." Nothing like that. Or maybe I choose not to remember those things that he said. Maybe he's got a different story, and there probably is a different story. But from
yeah,
what I think in my head,
yeah.
nothing like that.
Huh.
Now that he's older, then we can relate, and we can talk, and he tells me different things. But it's a lot, not from when I was a teenager.
Yeah. Did he stop drinking?
Yes. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, he used to have a drink here and so, but no, I mean, that was a big thing in our family. I mean, it got down to the point where it was like, all right, we all sat down and it said, listen, you're here or you're there. That's it. Simple as that.
Yeah.
And everything kind of just broke down. I mean, the ice just kind of cracked, and then it took that particular time to just say, all right, is here or there. And he decided to stay and stick it out, and 100% better.
Yeah.
Big
Yeah.
time. A big change.
Yeah. I
Big
um
change.
I was talking to this I was in a webinar talking to a couple of dads who were struggling with their 17-year-olds. Just, I mean, like, having a real hard time. The boys were misbehaved and there were problems. And it scared me. My mine are 12 and 13 right now. And hearing these guys, it scared me it scared me. It scared me a lot. I worried at that moment. What if I think I've been doing such a great job only to find out, 4 years from now, my oldest one is going off the rails, and I mentioned it to him. His mother wasn't happy, but I was just like, I got concerned. How did you were you ever concerned that
It, oh yes,
yeah,
big time, because I was a bad teenager. I was a bad child, and again, that comes that. from what I tell my kids all the time, it's like, listen, I tell them everything. I'm very honest with them. I did this, and that at 15, 16, 17, 18, whatever time it was. And I don't know if that has helped them in a way. I don't know if that maybe they always tell me, oh, whatever, it is what it is. But maybe that has put a little fear in their head. But none of them have done anything where I could say it's been this bad, or it can't be handled, or it's out of control, or he's in prison, or he's a drug addict. Nothing like that. Nothing like that at all. I mean, yeah, they've been, stupid things, tickets, wrecks. I mean, but nothing,
Yeah.
nothing, nothing too crazy.
One or two
Nothing.
Rex. There was a plural in that Rex.
Well, I got four. I got three boys, three adult boys. So we've had multiple cars. So
Multiple. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, so it's been a few times.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been quite a few times. But yeah, the boys. I mean, I don't think there's nothing that you could tell them. I mean, you could be the best at in the world. You can give them everything in the world, but I mean, I think they got to find themselves.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think they got to find themselves to realize. For example, my son in the army, he was very adamant about going into the army because he didn't know what to do. He didn't know what he didn't want to go to school. He just wanted to go to army. And I told him, I said, listen, I've been there. I've been in that situation. I know what it feels like. This is what you're going to start feeling. You're going to start feeling homesick. You're going to think it's great at first. And then you're going to realize, okay, what in the hell am I doing here? Why did I get into this? But he didn't realize until he actually was in there a couple of years or a year and a half. And he's like, Dad, I should have listened to you. I'm sorry. I don't like it here. I wish somebody would just punch me in the head and make me realize certain things. But again, like I said, you can tell them all you want every day for the rest of your life, and they're gonna do what they want.
Yeah.
I mean, you can influence a little bit. I think you as a parent are gonna be. It's a big influence, but I mean, at the end of the day, they're their own personality, and they're gonna do things.
You said something earlier that I didn't jump on, but I'm gonna jump in now and say this. I've been thinking about this a lot. A lot. I've been doing the math on time spent talking with my children daily,
Mm-hmm.
and in on a regular day, non-weekend, I may spend, and I think if I add it up, even with dinner, even with dinner. I mean, with dinner, if we're having dinner together, which happens while they're in school. Right now, they're out of school, so the whole thing is. But let's say on a school day with dinner, I may spend probably 10 minutes a day, right? So on a good school day, I have spent 10 minutes verbally speaking with it, passing down information, knowledge, advice, whatever, via the spoken word. 10 minutes. On the weekends, if we go to the beach, um, the time increases, right? But maybe total time spent 20 minutes, 30, let's say 30 minutes. It's not going to be an hour speaking. But they have seen me every day. They see me, they know where I am. Every day they know where I am. Or on a beach day, they've spent the entire day seeing my behavior, right? So some of what you're saying that makes me think about this is it is so important that fathers are modeling the right behavior, right? So what I in essence what this insight has made me do is because they don't always want to hear you talk.
Not at all.
What I do have control over is what are my actions, right? What does my behavior look like, right? Um, And so I think that's a little bit of what you're saying. It's like, so I worry less about what I may be able to say and more about, what am I doing? What am I showing them?
Yeah, I think showing them is a big key, um, and something I didn't realize as a younger adult. that you don't realize how much it affects your child on just the reactions you have, just the way you speak, the way you know, your mannerisms, your whatever it may be that you're showing them physically. Um, you could tell them something different, but if they see it, if you see your actions,
Yeah.
um, I mean, I think that's what they're going to catch on to,
Right.
and it could be good and bad. So
Yeah. What are some of the did you I'm sure they were in sports in school, in high school.
yeah,
What
they were in sports. I mean, they played lacrosse, baseball, soccer, um, just normal kids. There was nothing too crazy. Um, I did, like I said, my three boys that weren't here with me all the time. Oh, talking about your 16, 17-year old, issues or whatever that you're concerned about. So when my son was 16, I think he was 16. It's been such a long time now, but it did come to his. He actually we actually fought. So it was well, I didn't hit him. I didn't do anything, but he came up to me, and I mean, we had a discussion. We had a heated discussion where he was saying, "Oh, you never get to see me, or you always come here," and blah blah blah. So I think that it was frustrating for him that I wasn't there 100%.
Hmm.
In my heart, I've always been there, and he knows that now because we've talked about this. But I think he needed to let that out to
Yeah.
feel better, because after that everything was so much better between us.
Ah.
I mean he blew up. I mean, he told me, everything he could.
Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah,
I went to that city and didn't go see him or didn't call him or blah blah blah. You weren't there,
yeah,
and it hurt.
yeah,
I mean, it hurt, but
yeah.
at the end of the day, he was right. He was
Right.
100%, and I had to agree with him, and I had to tell him, hey, listen, I was this age. This is what happened. I'm here now. How can we fix this? So
So I I I I get that moment. I understand that moment. It sounds like an amazing moment. I'm happy for you because I recognize that, yeah, he needed to say it. You needed to hear it. I'm sure it was a great leap forward in your relationship. And the way that I try to ensure that I don't, and this doesn't mean that it won't happen, but the way that I try to ensure that that I don't that he doesn't wait too long to say things, that bottling it up because he doesn't know
yeah,
how to. He
just
doesn't know.
building it up. Yeah,
Yeah, he doesn't know. He might not know how to broach the subject for many years. Is from time to time I'll ask, hey, what do you think I should, what would you like me to change about my behavior so that we could.
but is this something that you're asking your kids to do?
Yeah. No,
That you
yeah.
tell them?
So I'll ask him. Yeah. So we'll be in the car, and it's just like a couple of months. I had this, with the oldest. And we're in the car, and I said, hey, what do you think? What should I change, about my behavior so that we have a better relationship, and so that you're happier. And he goes, oh, everything seems to be fine right now. He goes, I don't like how angry you used to be. And I was like, oh man. I'm like, yeah, but I'm. So I got annoyed because I'm like, I've been working so hard, and all you remember is the past. But it makes sense. It meant something to him. So first I fought it. First I defended myself, so that I went through the stages correctly.
Yeah.
Denial. I fought it. Um, and then I came back around, and I was like, yeah, you're right.
That,
I'm
that
sorry.
that's fun. That's funny you say that because um, when I ask my kids, I mean, I don't say that as often, but I do ask them that, and it's always something. It's always something bad. Like they remember
Yeah,
the stupid little thing about, oh, you didn't get me ice cream on that day for some reason, and you said no, no, no,
yeah,
and I'm like,
yeah,
really, dude? I'm like, this was
yeah,
5 years ago, and you remember that particular day.
yeah.
But you know,
Yeah.
that's life, I guess.
I was talking to this lady. She's an expert in child behavior, and she was saying that all the work that you do with children is trauma based. I believe that's what she said, which makes sense. For a child, pretty much everything is traumatic, right? Everything
Yeah.
is, they depend on you for everything. So anytime that any one of their needs aren't met, it's kind of an issue. It's like they need it and they can't get it themselves. They can't get it themselves. So yeah, that's probably why they remember all these details on what we as adults at the time thought, but that's silly. Like forget about
Let me
these
ask you
kids.
this: do you ask your kids to, or have your kids do things around the house, like clean their rooms or wash the bathrooms
You
or
know,
dishes?
there's some chores, some, but not too much.
Not too crazy.
No, not too much. No, I don't feel the need. I mean, like they have chore. Yeah, they do like I don't know every Sunday or a couple of Sundays they have to organize their rooms. One is in charge of taking out the trash. The other one's in charge of
But they had
feeding.
things. But they had things to do. Like they're
Yeah,
not
yeah.
just sitting at home playing video games all day long and
Well, they
just
do
kind of
that.
hanging out.
They do that too.
Well, they all do that.
They all do that. Yeah. No, they have chores. They have chores. No, I'm a pretty strict guy. Strict guy. Yeah, yeah. Don't let
Yeah.
this facade of softness
So yeah.
fool
So
you.
so with Nicholas, my 21-year-old, who's in the army, we had when I first met, not first met my wife, but we had been together for a while, and so they would come every weekend or every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, every other weekend, whatever it was. Um, and during those days, they felt like they didn't have to do anything at the house. Oh, why do we have to clean? Why do we have to do this? Why do we have to do that? But we made them. Hey, you got to clean your room. You got to make your bed. You got to do your dishes. You got to help around. You can't just sit around doing nothing.
Yeah.
But well, the years went by or whatnot. Later on in the years, my son, he calls us. He's like, you know what? I want to thank you guys for helping me do these things, because now I know what it is to do things on my own. And he even told us, he said, when I was a kid, I really hated that. I'm like, why in the hell are you making me do these things? Like, there's no point. There's nothing to it. I mean, why? I'm only 15, 16, whatever it may be. But it's something that I always remember, that he thanked us for that. He's like, you know what? Nobody's ever taught me how to do this,
Yeah.
but you guys taught me to get this done, and I'm proud and I'm happy that I was able to do it on my own. Even to wash his clothes, to change a tire,
Right.
to
Yeah.
oil change. These things are just like things that people don't think about, and it just kind of happens. But
Yeah. So
it's
the
good
way
to hear
that
that from your kids.
yeah, no, so the way that I teach my kids what your son was thankful for is I I um everyone here knows that we're a team. That's the word that I use. That's the term that I use. I said we are a team. Um, and so what annoys me to no end is when one of the team players doesn't carry his own weight. And of course, mom and dad, me and their mom decide how much weight they should carry. Um, but we make the decision together, so hopefully it's balanced, and hopefully they're carrying enough of their weight. And so that's what it is. It isn't about doing chores. For me, it's not about chores. It's not about preparing them for when they live on their own. That I don't think that far, because ultimately, I mean, it'll translate when they end up living with a girl. Um, they're a team, right? So meaning that they'll know that they'll have to do half of however much, and then she'll have to do half of however much. So in essence, what I'm trying to teach is, if you're with a girl that's not doing any of the work, she's not a team player. What the hell are you doing with her, right?
Yeah,
And that'll be his decision to make. But
of
we
course.
taught we taught teamwork, right? I taught teamwork. So, for instance, I'll give you an example. When we go to the beach, we go for an entire day. We live an hour and a half from the beach, and so what I like to do is I like to wake up early. I like to be there as soon as the park opens, 9 a.m., and then we're there until sunset. So it's 9 to 7, so 10, 12 hours. Um, nine, let's say 10 hours, 8 to 10 hours we're over there. So I bring a tent, right? So I got a whole, huge, this big, this like 10 by 10
Yeah,
tent. Yeah,
I know how that is.
I'm one of those
The
guys.
the
I got,
cooler and the
yeah.
food and all that
Oh
good
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. I got this like this stroller thing that gets shoved, towels and wetsuits and
Yeah.
um, tons of stuff, tons of. So anyway, um, they, as the when they were really little, they carried a single tiny little thing, like maybe their shovels or whatever, right? That's all they could manage, and that's it. And I've seen this. I recognize this progression. Nowadays, they got the chair on their backs. They got a bag over here. Someone's got fishing poles over here. Like they're loaded. I literally have to. I just carry the tent and I drag the other thing. But that's
And you're
it,
good to go.
and I'm good to go. So not yeah. And I expect that soon enough, one of these clowns is going to carry the heavy tent, and I'll take it easy.
One
You
of these
know.
days.
One of these days. Um, but yeah, I see it as teamwork. I see it as I think that I'd like I'm teaching them how life works through team, and I mentioned the word teamwork a lot also. It's for instance like they always want to purchase something, right? Because they're so little, they don't know what the value of money is, and so you know I'll bring up things like, well, it's not in the budget. That what you just requested, it's out of the budget right now. It cannot make it, and so if we were to give it to you, then it would throw out the entire team out of balance.
Got it.
Um, so that's sort of a way that I think of it.
That's pretty good. I mean, at least you see some progression in that. Just trying to, like you said, little by little, they're lifting their more weight.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's a good
definitely,
thing.
definitely. Your 10-year-old he's gaming right
He's
now.
he's 12. He's
It's
12.
12, 12, I'm sorry,
Oh
12.
yeah. He's doing his whole gaming thing right now.
Yeah, yeah. Well, how do
And
you
it's
how do
what,
you
9 o'clock?
yeah, right? How do you feel about gaming? Well, video
You know
games.
what? I don't mind it. I'm not a video game person. I've never been. Um, I don't mind it until it gets just too out of control where he gets up and it has to be turn on the game and then he does not see us until he wants food and then come back in his room and that's it. Especially now with this whole quarantine thing.
Yeah,
Um, I'm not against it. And we talked to him about it. He said, "But why can I be on the game? I could be a gamer. I could make millions of dollars doing this." I said, "But that's not the point. I mean, you're 12. You got to get your schooling in. I mean, you could become. I'm not saying no. I'm not telling you not to do it
yeah,
because it's possible.
yeah,
But um, I'm neither against it nor with the whole thing. I mean, I don't want to be in on there the whole time. I think you
right.
just lose track of. I
Yeah,
mean, obviously they're on their headphones too, and they're talking to people, and mostly it's just like four cousins that they're talking to,
yeah,
which I'm happy about that because they never get to see each other, so they're talking, so they're interacting, which is good.
yeah,
But I'm not just a big fan of sitting in front of that TV and just kind of getting fat and not doing anything. I'm like, dude, you got to get out, bro. Get out, do
yeah,
something, ride a
yeah,
bike, let's go
yeah,
fishing, whatever we got to do, but just get out.
yeah. Yeah, I know. The gaming is tricky because like you, I remember when I when gaming like when Atari came out and I wasn't interested in it. Um, and then later, I was a kid that spent all my time outside. I was dangerous outside. I had slingshots. I always carried a slingshot with me, man. There was always a lizard that I was gonna that was marked for death. Um, yeah, I was always shooting something, birds, lizards. I mean, I was always killing things. I was out there. I was out there in the world. I was not interested in being inside for anything, television or gaming or none of it. And so it's interesting sort of to see my children do something completely different than what I did. I mean, to see them inside
Yeah,
game.
it's not even interesting. It's just a little frustrating as well sometimes because I like you probably thinking I did the same thing. I was always outside running around, doing whatever it may have been, but and I see them inside and I'm like, get
Yeah,
out, get
yeah.
out.
But so this is this I find this an interesting to be an interesting conversation, the gaming one versus the non-gaming. So I think of myself. So they're 12 and 13, right? So at 10, 12, I think of myself compared to them as a pretty big dumb dummy. Like at 10, I had, I mean, well, here's why. So like at 10, these guys were, they were in a game strategizing. They were in teams, strategizing. How are we going to destroy the other team? They were in worlds that are just that for me to have imagined as a 10-year-old would have been utterly impossible. I could not have imagined the worlds in which these boys exist today. So I'm torn, right? I'm torn between too much gaming, which nobody knows what it is. We don't know what it is yet. I mean, we have some ideas. We'd like to think that we're monitoring correctly, but at the same time, they're with friends all day. When they're gaming they're with friends. They're living in these immense worlds in which they can create tons of stuff. What and here's another thing about my kids compared to me at the same age, say for argument's sake, 12. Um, my vocabulary at 12 was limited. You know, um, compared to them, I was a child that had been, kept in a cage his entire
So you
life.
so you so you were basic
I was
and
high,
they're
super basic.
advanced.
Oh my God, yeah, 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 yeah. If I was 1.0 for argument's sake, right? Because maybe that makes sense. They're version 10, 10x. I don't know what's more than 10. I mean, like if they had met me at their age, they would not have noticed that I existed. That's how basic I was.
Got it.
And so for me to see them as advanced as they are, I love it. I'm fascinated by it. And I was just talking the other day with another dad, and I showed him this book. I'm going to show it to you. I love this book. This is Jane McGonigal's Reality is
Reality is
Broken.
broken.
Yeah, and I love this book because, um, it's why games make us better and how they can change the world. And I believed it. I mean, she sold me. I mean, I loved it. And I think that the key might be just to balance out their gaming, not to
But balance out their gaming time
yeah.
or
So not to, and my idea is not to restrict. I don't want to use that word, right. I don't want to restrict their amount of times gaming, but I just want to balance out their gaming because from my point of view, the future is gaming. The future is
Mhm.
digital, like hyper
Yeah,
digital, right?
everything's digital.
Everything's
Of
digital. We're
course.
talking about, we already have a certain amount of AIs. We're already these cyborgs with these phones. Like the future is so. My concern is, you know how older people, retired older people, are easy to fool. You know how like you hear in the news these stories about how someone called grandpa and told him this crazy wild story, and then suddenly grandpa is writing out checks, or maybe some scammer what somehow got was allowed to remote into grandpa's computer and stole whatever
Oh
my
God.
my right. So what happens
Oh,
is
yeah, of course.
you and I are very, very soon going to arrive at an age, at a physical age, where we're not going to be able to tell the difference between this is legitimate and I'm being scammed. It's just gonna happen, right? And so what's the point of the story is that I hope that I know. I know that I'm doing the right thing so that my children will be able to take care of me, and tell me what to look out for because I'm not going to be on top of it, right? But hopefully they will. Hopefully they'll be. I don't know. I guess
I
I
mean,
just
that's good thinking. I didn't think. I mean, I know the gist of what you were saying, but I never thought about it in that particular way. Like it's gonna get to that point, and you're right. You're absolutely right. I mean, we are gonna get to that point where we're gonna be those old people, and everything is kind of takes its turn. Well, yeah, I
it's
would love
gonna
to
be
read that book too. I'm gonna have my wife
yeah.
read it as well.
You should. It's going to be really scary for us because there's already robocalls so you cannot tell that they're not human. So that's you know what I mean. Like you're already getting phone calls on your cell phone that you have to
Oh yeah,
you sort of go when you say something and the answer doesn't make complete sense,
you're
but
like,
and that's when you start saying wait a minute, and then if you're smart you'll ask a question that makes no sense and then the robocall cannot answer it, right?
yeah,
But but the thing about it is, for instance, like in terms of gaming, right? So I go into the rooms and I go, hey, how many of those are real people? And they'll say, well, these guys are real, these guys are not, and then I'll ask, can you tell the difference? And they cannot, but maybe there is something that they can see that I'm not being able to ask because I don't understand how it works and I don't spend enough time in front of it. That in real life it would benefit me or us both that they have been exposed to it long enough. I mean, we're preparing them, like in my case, and in your case with your 12-year-old, you're preparing them not to live the life that you lived, not for your childhood, not for your teenage years. You're not even preparing him for his teenage years. You're attempting to prepare him for a future that neither of you is aware of, like
yeah. That we have no control of, or no
concept
awareness
of, yeah.
basically. So that's the weird thing. But it is a little bit different from when I was, obviously, when I was talking to my older kids than what I am talking to him. With him, I mean, we even with the other ones, we've opened credit cards, not credit cards, but accounts, bank
Okay.
accounts, and have them do their own, shopping or
Yeah.
teaching them how to use that. And even with my 12-year-old, we've just asked them to for investments.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of things with investments now that we think is helpful to him. So as I don't know, as homework to him, we've asked him, hey, why don't you find out? I want him to actually get on his phone or get on his computer and actually look for certain things. Hey, you have a little bit of money in your bank account. Instead of just sitting there, instead of sitting in that savings account, why don't we try to do something to help you invest in something that's going to make something for you later.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to teach them a little bit about money because it's something that I never got taught. It
Right.
was just work, 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 and
Yeah.
then you get paid, you get a check, and that's it.
Yeah.
But that's honestly that's not how you want to live,
No.
and that's how I'm never going to live again. But
Yeah.
and
Right.
that's why I want to teach my kids, hey, there's a different way to be able to do this. I don't want
Yeah.
to just have a paycheck to paycheck thing, I
Right.
want to enjoy life. I want to enjoy you guys. I want to enjoy your kids.
This is an important point that I think we should spend a little bit of time on. We have been teaching our boys about money. I've tried to teach them for as long as I can. Forever, I have explained to them forever, when starting at the store, like, hey guys, here's $1. He's asking for 50 cents. How much am I getting back? All right, who's going to answer this question? And then the idea of budgets, we mentioned the word budget, meaning you can't spend more than what you're making. So they're understanding that they get money for their chores. So that goes into an account. And my wife manages their accounts, so they know how much money they have that they can't spend during the week. We give them the money; they can spend it all in gaming. It's gone. What am I going to do?
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. Um, but I have spent years saying to them, look, I someone's not going to like this statement, but I've spent years telling them that I do not want them to work. in retail. I don't want them to work at a restaurant. I've actually, I've said this. I said, with so many jobs that you can start on your own, so many businesses. I said, look, you can go wash cars at people's houses, and within that day make more money than you would in a single day than you would, working at Walmart for an entire week. So I point out all the kinds of jobs that they can do in the summertime and make thousands of dollars, including building websites and all, tons of, like, web work, which I know how to do. So I've been so in essence, what I have to do a lot of times is to teach him this. I have to pay them. It's kind of like it's like bribing, but if
So we actually need to get together on this too, because that's a different subject. But I'll ask you some more questions about that.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I mean, this same concept with my kids. So my oldest works. He's got a job. He works at a restaurant. He's a chef. Um,
I
Obviously, mother was in the army. He works, 9 to 5, getting a paycheck. The other one goes to school and works a part-time job. So they're all working these part-time jobs, and they always ask me, "Oh, well, how do you manage? How do you do this? Like, how do you have these cars? How do you have a house? How do you have a house in somewhere else? How do you have a property there? How do you have this and that?" And I told him, say, "Hey, this is something that I chose to do, and I decided to do when I was a little younger, and I started my own business, and it's worked out. Like, I mean, yeah, I busted my butt to get to where I am, but it's worked out." Um, and I'm constantly telling them the same thing you're telling them. Hey, look for different things. And I don't want, like you said, I don't want them to work in retail. I don't want them to work in the fast food. I don't want to work in any of that stuff. I
right.
said, you can get I mean, there is so many different options. Just bust your butt, even cutting grass. I mean, I know landscaping companies that are making millions of
Oh
dollars,
yeah,
and I mean, it's your own thing. And I tell them that your time is the best thing you could have.
right.
And my son is like, he's like, "Dad, how much did you make this? How much you make on this job?" I said, I don't know. I throw him a number. I say, "Hey, 20 grand." He's like, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah, yeah,
I'm like, "Dude, I
yeah.
mean, it's taken me 20
Yeah,
years to get
right.
to where I'm at, but
Yeah,
it's your own thing. You have, and that's what I want you guys to think of. Just think of every night. Just go home and just think, hey, what can I do?
yeah,
What is my hustle? What can I
right.
get into to get things going? And that's what I teach my little one as well. And
Yeah,
obviously he's smaller, so I just trying to put that in his head.
right,
Hey, you got to be your own boss. You got to do this. You got
right,
not just
right.
work for somebody 9 to 5.
No, and because you don't have to look, the reason I'm okay with paying them to, like, so I really enjoy electrical work and the plumbing around the house, and maybe I'll do some siding, maybe I'll do a little roofing, and they don't want anything to do with that. I know, but I'm okay with paying them $20. Like, you know what? I'll give you $20 to help me fix the shed. It'll take 3 hours. You want the $20, right? And they'll say yes. Well, I basically pressure them into. I'm going to give you $20. You have to spend it, right? Because even though they're just going to sit there and watch me, they're seeing it. They're seeing
Yeah,
it be done. And so,
yeah.
but because I'm
And you
probably gonna.
sorry to interrupt. Before you say that, so by them seeing you right then doing that, later on, 2 years, 3 years from now, or even a month later, they're going to tell their friends, "Hey, I built this shed with my dad."
Yeah, yeah, and they're
That's
proud of.
exactly what's going to happen. They're proud
Yeah,
of it. So
they're
it's
proud of it.
that
Yeah.
proudness of,
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But the reason why it makes sense for me to pay him to do these things, to sit there, like the other, like, another example is, oh, I know, I had, the Durango has some rust on it, so I'm like, come out here and just watch me while I patch it up, and I'll give you, I'll pay you. It's the same as if you pay them, if you pay for their education when they go to college, you're paying for their education. Yeah, like
yeah.
but you're paying $20 here or $100,000 there, whatever, you're so, this is hugely important to me, right? Because I didn't grow up that way. I grew up with a single mother that never fixed anything because it wasn't her thing. So she was always hiring people, and I never learned any of this stuff. And I'm like, I'm doing it. I had to teach it. I had to teach myself. And now that I own the knowledge, I want these guys to have it. So I am. There is concerted cultivation there from me. Definitely, I'm very aware of what I'm doing, making sure that they have these tools. And I tell them, I'm like, talking about cutting grass. I'm like, you can go cut grass, but you're gonna compete with Jose and with Pepe and with Juancho, all people who are cutting grass for very little money because they're just cutting so much of it. You can do that and make a couple $100, in the summertime, or you can let me teach you how to build a website, and you can make two, $3,000, $5,000 on a website in 1 week, right? So this is the sort of thing that I'm trying to get them to understand that it really, it's not how hard you work sometimes. It really is, you know how smart. If you could just be,
Yeah,
but
big time.
we have to plant that in their minds, that they can.
You do, big time. You definitely got to plant that in their head. Are any of your kids computer savvy, or are they? I mean, obviously they have to be, but are they show any interest in any of that stuff?
No, no,
No.
not yet, not yet. I'm planting the seeds, but they're only no. They're not connecting gaming. We've sent them to coding camps, but they're not connecting the gaming with a some what's the word I'm looking for? It's not translating into an action for them. It's not connecting yet. They're not
Got it.
seeing.
Yeah, they're not seeing that in between. I see what you're saying.
They
Yeah.
haven't asked. Yeah, the thing is, they haven't asked to purchase something that is of such great value that I'm gonna say, maybe like when they get to their car, right, their first car, maybe then they'll be like, Dad, this car's $5,000, and I'm like, I'll give you half, right, but you got to come up with the other half, and so maybe then that's when the gears will, you know, will click, I mean, there's so many.